Hi, it's Laurel from Millennial Legal Coaching, and I'm here with Angela, and we're back for another divorce chat. So here we are to talk about things, all things divorce related, but not necessarily legal. What are we talking about today, Angela?
Today we're talking about the age-old saying, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And more specifically, we're talking about staying on top of things.
Yeah.
So, you have a task to complete, you complete your task, you hand it over to the next party to do their little piece on the task, and maybe
the temptation is to sit back, relax, and not do anything, right?
And maybe it's because you're avoidant like I sometimes am. Maybe it's because you're anxious to hear, like, no news is good news, maybe, or maybe you're busy and you think, well, I do my thing. I'll just, I've got to wait for them to do their part and they'll get back to me.
Yeah.
But
if I may interject, so this is why people, I would say 9 out of 10 times why people are finding like working with us is or not our clients, but like we get things done is because we don't, as legal practitioners, we don't sit back and we just expect things to happen for us once we put the ball in the other person's court, right? There's like a third dimension, right? So there's one dimension is like, these are the tasks that I need to do and I've done them. There's those are the tasks that the other person needs to do and they are working on them or whatever. The third little dimension is time. And every task on anything needs to be completed in a certain amount of time, right? And even if the task is not your own task to complete, the other, like, you need to, sometimes your task might end up being to compel the other person to finish their task within a certain amount of time. Because you got to keep the ball moving.
Yeah, and we're not talking like I've done my task, so I'm going to harass you daily since I sent you over your task.
Yeah.
But we'll complete a task and then we know that the other side needs to do a task and we've got it sort of, we're thinking about it. Okay, we're checking in with each other. How long has passed? Has it been reasonable? Should that task have been completed? Should we follow up yet? It's not just like, okay, we're done now. We wait until we're notified.
Endlessly. Yeah, I wait endlessly. And I think that is actually one of the major mistakes that people make on files. If they're not like if they're staying on top of their tasks and doing all the right things, the one thing they often drop the ball on, or that they can drop the ball in, is they're not aware of the passage of time. They're not paying attention to how long things are taking, or maybe they've forgotten, they're like, well, I did my thing and then I waited and I waited and I waited, and I waited. And then it's like, well, hold on. This needed to be done. And, if the other person wasn't doing it, you actually had a secret obligation of following up and saying this needs to get done. So beware of those secret obligations.
And I think, most people aren't just having one task on their plate. So, I mean, it's easy for that passage of time to go from like a couple days to like, whoa, how did a month happen?
3 months.
3 months, well, 3 months, like time seems to be speeding up.
Yeah.
You really do have to stay on top of, like you said, the secret obligation of following up.
Yeah.
Otherwise.
Well, and you have to expect that's actually, maybe is not a secret obligation. It is an actual obligation you need to follow up. Like, and I think for us, it's very explicit in our practice. Like, we're like, okay, and we might calendar it, like, let's follow up if we haven't heard anything by this date. Okay. And we make that decision before we even send our little ball out. We're like, okay, we're going to send this little ball out. And this is the date by which we're going to be checking to see if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And it might be an opposing party. It might be like the court registry. It might be like some, professional that you've hired to work on something. Everybody is so overwhelmed. Everybody is so busy. And if you are not being an advocate for yourself, right, then no one cares about it. Yeah. Right. And I think this applies to like anything in life, whether it's like talking to your kids' teachers and advocating for something, is like, you have to be the one who cares. You have to be your own best advocate.
Yeah. Right? You can't just assume that the other person's life is going smoothly and
Or that
they're on top of
that they're doing their job well, even. I mean, you hope, you give them the benefit of the doubt, but you can't assume that they're as motivated to get your problem solved as you are.
Yes,
right?
exactly. You're the one that's going to be able to help you the best.
Yeah, and you know the timeline that you're working on, right? And so I would say, like, as a service provider, and Angela can speak to this too, the people who end up getting the fastest service, I mean, here's the thing, like, we try to provide like we stay on top of things with all our clients, right? We're very mindful of time as part of our service. But the people who are going to get the most effective and fast results are probably the people who are staying in touch with us and checking in and updating us and saying, like, oh, when can I expect this? When can I expect that? Right? Not that I like love it, but at the same time, if I'm making a commitment as to time, I try to follow through on it. That's something that's very important to me. Not all service providers are going to feel the same. But sure enough, if you're the one who's calling constantly or in a reasonable amount of time, like, you're going to stay on top of their front of mind, top of their pile, and they're going to want to get things done for you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, squeaky wheel gets the grease. And you'd be surprised at the kind of grease that squeaky wheels can get. So, there is a way to approach things for sure. But, we've been told, like, clients of ours have been told, like, oh, court registry couldn't possibly do any of these things for you. And then sure enough, you're on them enough, right? Or you talk to the right person and look at the doors that open for you. Absolutely. So it's being a squeaky wheel, if you want to call it that, or being an advocate for yourself means, like, not just staying on top of it, but it's also being, like, persistent, being resilient to be able to, if you get a no, or if you get it's not giving up.
Yes. Yeah. Especially, like, I can think of multiple situations in my personal life where, a situation where I needed to follow up with this organization. And then they said, no, it's this organization. And so I followed up with that organization and they said, no, it's this organization. And you can bet I wanted to quit multiple times, but the stakes were quite high for me. And so I just kept, who should I call then? And then I would phone that person and they would say, no, it's this person you must speak to. And then I would call them. And eventually I don't know whether I was so annoying or if I just eventually spoke to the right person, but everything was resolved in my favor. And so I think it's definitely, it can be annoying and it can be time consuming, but it is worth it.
Yeah, I think that, like, we've all had that experience of doors being shut in our face, and it's just like people pointing at each other and saying, you need to talk to that person. They're like, no, you need to talk to that person. And so and I can guarantee you, the minute you enter the legal world, whether it's just to process a divorce or whether it's to actually litigate something, once you're dealing with the court registry and the whole, like, there is a whole legal system, right? But once you're in there, like, you are going to get a lot of, like, either closed doors or confusing information. And it can be really demoralizing and it can be really frustrating, especially if it's, your first time through it. So getting the adequate support that you need to kind of, like, pick yourself back up and, like, get out there and, or asking the right questions. So if you're working with us, then, like, easy enough to say, like, what's a reasonable time frame for me to wait before I follow up again? We're happy to, like, let you know. Certainly after we file, like, second stage documents for divorces, like, we're checking at the 2-month mark, or if we haven't heard anything within a month or 2 months, usually I would say, if we really haven't heard anything in 2 months and we're like, what's happening with that? Check on that. Even, and if it just says pending or whatever it says, referred or pending, and it's been a little while, Angela will send another email, right?
Yeah.
And
I will check, everything seems to be going the way of computerized. And so you're doing more things on platforms instead of talking to people. And, there's glitches. And so, we've had divorces that have just dropped off the system. They were completed. We didn't get that email saying, hey, here's your final order. And it was because we were like, hey, checking, following up, and we're like, hey, what happened there? That we've
all the time, but there's so many little things that like get in, and I guess it amazes me that like not just like in many different capacities that like how things do fall through the cracks. And I guess that just comes down to labor shortages, people being overwhelmed, people being disorganized, people not being set up to keep things on track, or and so I guess that's the final message we have, Angela, is just like, you got to be your own best advocate. You got to stay on top of it. If you need people to coach you through that, we'd love to be the people to coach you through that. Angela is so good at that part. At least when she's working in her role as Alinea for Alinea Legal Coaching.
And I'll say, like, if you need a strategy with doing this, like, you do your task, set a reminder in your calendar to alert you in a couple weeks, or if you need to know the time frame, be in touch with us. But set a reminder to yourself if your life is busy and you think you might forget. Mm-hmm. That is just one of many strategies that can be useful.
Okay, so I think everyone's tired of us lecturing them by now. So why don't we wrap this up? If you enjoyed this content, please hit subscribe, click that little notification button. What else? Maybe hit a comment to let us know how you're doing with following up, or if you're completely lost and need some extra help. Just a little note, we do have a new offering with Alinea Legal Coaching. We've put together a course about how to negotiate your own separation agreement. It's called An Agreement Worth Signing. It's pretty much a brain dump of everything that I teach my clients in the first, few months of working with them about how to negotiate on their own. Like every little aspect of it is all consolidated into one lesson plan. There's a course that's available on Thinkific. I'm going to put the link below. It's less than $200, $197 for the entire course. For now, I think I am going to raise the price because it is essentially probably worth about $5,000 of legal advice. I think that's what I kind of compare it to. Anyway, if that sounds interesting to you, please, you can ask us any further questions that you have about it, or go check out at the link below. And I think that's it for now. All right. Thank you.